the IBM Blockchain team, and he's the lead architect for the IBM Blockchain Platform. And he leads the user interface team that builds on the IBM Blockchain Protocol Console and won a prestigious Red Dot Design Award. And he's been a part of IBM for over 20 years now. And he's worked on many products as a UI architect. So at this point, I'm going to go turn it over to Varad and let him go through his presentation. But I do want to let everyone know that if you have any questions while we're moving through the presentation, feel free to post them in the chat on Zoom here, and we'll address them. And then we'll also be posting, relevant links as we move through the presentation, so you can go in and engage with the community. And one thing that I always like to really promote is, this is a great way to learn about projects, but we're always looking for additional contributors and maintainers. And if you're interested in really contributing to Hyperledger Fabric or the operations console, definitely feel free to follow up and engage with us, and we'll be glad to get you engaged. So at this point, Varad, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's go through your presentation.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks, John and David. Appreciate the intros and the efforts that you guys go through to set this up. So today we're going to talk about managing orders that don't have system channel. And then it'll have a brief intro, and then followed by a demo. So let's get right to it. All right. So again, we're going to talk about two different things today, right? I mean, two sets, right? So one is, what is the benefit of the new Fabric architecture? So Fabric introduced, I believe in 2.4, the channel participation API, and removed the need for system channel. So we'll touch on the benefits of this new architecture, and then we'll have a short demo after that, to again show the new functionality that console implemented to support what Fabric did. Right, and then we will open it up for Q&A, and again, post questions like John said, right, as we go along. So the first thing is, again, what is the channel participation API and what is the benefit, right? So, so if you look in the picture on the left side, right, with system channel, this is the legacy approach of managing orders. So we had again, Fabric had the concept of system channel, where it needed to know all the ordering service, organizations and nodes that are part of the quote unquote pseudo cluster, right? So in this picture, I'm showing a ordering cluster with 5 different nodes, right? That could belong to different organizations. And if you created a channel, right, say app channel 1 with 1, 2, and 3 nodes, right, from again different. David, recording stopped. It says, is that should I?
The live stream's going. We've got the recording on the live stream.
Okay. So again, app channel 1, so 1, 2, and 3 are the nodes on it. However, when you create the channel and manage it, system channel knows about different channels that are being created and managed, right? So in this picture again, right? So let's say I'm an organization that just needs to as 1, 2, and 3. However, since say organization 5 is in the system channel, if organization 5 with node 5 is querying the system channel, they know that there is app channel 1, in the system, right? So that's one of the, the gaps that Fabric tries to address with removing system channel. So on the right, you see that without system channel, again, in this picture, there is, of course, no system channel. And with the same set of 5 different nodes in the system, if I'm creating app channel 1, nobody but the nodes, organizations from nodes, 1, 2, and 3 are the only ones that know about this particular channel, right? So that's one of the big benefits. It's a distributed, truly distributed architecture where there is no single kind of, entity system channel in sort that knows and manages and needs that architecture, right? So that's the big benefit. So what other things, right? Again, no consortium. Of course, there is system channel had the concept of consortium, which encompassed, all the different organizations that are part of the consortium. So again, that's gone. So, again, you need to think of the new architecture, much like peers joining a channel, the orders are joining a channel. It's like if you have that mindset, I think everything falls into play, like when the new architecture, right? It's not very complicated again, So there is no consortium, nobody's managing system channel. And there is simple node creation. That's one of the things that, that Fabric advertises as a big benefit, which I agree. So when you create a new node, right, new orderer, previously you need to go through this entire process, right, where you need to create a node, get the TLS certs, add that as into the system channel, right, as the consenters and all that, right? So, and then you need to start the new node with the new Genesis, which contains this node as a consenter. So it's that convoluted process that's gone. Now you just create a new node, just like any other, peer, you create an orderer with its own identity, and then you can join a channel to that particular orderer, right? So again, that simplifies quite a bit. And then increased privacy, I briefly touched on it, right? So again, since there is no system channel, then there is nobody, not everybody in the quote unquote consortium knows about all the channels that are being created. Again, there is, that's one of the big benefits. Scalability is the other thing that, the Fabric talks about, right, as a benefit. Again, if you have a lot of different nodes that are in the system channel, when the orderer comes up, it needs to check all the other orderers so that if it sends, heartbeat checks, that are like going across the board, multiple times. So that kind of slows things down. So, the new architecture helps with, again, scalability, right? So actually, let me quickly show the page where Fabric talks about the benefits. So I added, the link is in the presentation, but again, you can see that Fabric list, again, no system channel, and then no consortium, simplified creation process. Again, you can read through more of it, from the Fabric page. There are some additional benefits that are being described, right? So again, let me go back. And then there are new APIs, right? So the new, approach, right, to the channel participation API has, they added three new APIs, right? Again, there is one that joins a channel to the orderer, and now you can list all the channels on a particular orderer, and then you can also remove a channel from the orderer. So all these APIs use TLS certificate on the orderer, right? So again, you need to remember that this is slightly, it is different than the general ordering service admin certificates. These are TLS certificates that come from the CA, right? Any, TLS cert that comes from the CA. And again, just to reference, right, the OS and admin APIs are listed here in the Fabric page. Join, list, and remove are the three different operations. And what console does, this is the main part we want to cover. So Fabric has these features. This has nothing to do with operations console. What operations console did is to support this architecture where there is no system channel, and we leverage these APIs. So the OS and admin APIs are basically REST APIs, right? That are protected, governed by, again, these TLS certificates. So we will see how console is able to simplify this process without having you go to command line to do these operations, how can you do that from the console? That's the thing we are going to see and talk about. Any questions so far?
Varad, yeah, Varad, I think there's a couple of good questions here. So basically, it looks like they're interested in, how version 2.4 is going to be backwards compatible with version 2.2 of Fabric. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that type of backward compatibility.
Okay. So that's a good question, right? So you can go to 2.4 and still continue to operate with the system channel, right? That's not like a required thing as part of 2.4. So again, if you don't make any changes, everything will continue. You can start 2.4 in the system channelless mode. There are flags that you pass. It's documented in in the Fabric pages, and IBM has operators, right? When you integrate operator, by the way, that's a plug for future talk. So IBM also open sourced operator, right? That is Fabric operator. If you look up, that allow you to create nodes with, again, 2.2, 2.4. It allows you to migrate from 2.2 to 2.4 with the right images, right? It runs on Kubernetes, and all that, right? So IBM does support, having a flow where you start with 2.2, you have system channel, and it shows you the process to move to 2.4, without system channel, right? So it is possible, but Fabric itself is, again, backward compatible with system channel, right? Did I answer the question?
I think so. And I
Yeah.
guess the
Go ahead,
corollary,
weigh in on it. Yep.
I guess the corollary question to that, I presume that, let's just say maybe in 2.6 or a later version of Fabric, then probably the system channel support will be dropped.
Right. I would think so. At some point, like 3.0 or something, I wouldn't expect them to drop support that drastically in a dot release. I think it's more like, a big release will drop support, I would think. But there is no plan, I don't think, yet on when the system channel will be dropped.
Got it. And I mean, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to go to the next question, but Mayank and I had a question around the migration of data.
Migration of data?
Yeah.
So that's a good question, right? Because this does not change the data. Nothing changes from channel, nothing changes from the data. If you have an application channel, so the migration, quote unquote, is only removing system channel. So everything is managed independently by the orders. So zero things change in the channel. They continue to operate the same way. The peer join, nothing changed from the peer join. So none of that changed, which is great, right? So it's only the fact that system channel got removed, and now you have to join the channel to individual orders. The process changed.
Okay, so you can join the orders to the channels, and then you can get rid of your blocks in the system channel if you wanted to.
So there is no system channel. Again, that's gone, right? So you don't rely on system channel to add a new consortium member. You don't use that as for consensus to tell others, like, this is clustered. That is what changed.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep. That's a good question, though. Yep.
And the other one, Varad, I'm going to have Sunny come off and ask his question, but it looks like he's got a question about privacy. So Sunny, do you want to just ask your question as well?
Yeah, so originally blockchain was created for private, no third-party entities, and allegedly it was considered private where no one could control it or get into it. But then now I'm hearing that it's on a public ledger now, and now everybody can see what you're doing.
No, it's not entirely true. So it's not like everybody, right? So the way it works is, again, right? Are you talking about legacy, like where people can see, is that what you're talking about, or the new approach? What is the concern, I guess, from public versus private?
So I guess it's a system where the blocks and everybody is able to see what blocks are being made in the community, contributing and decoding. Does that make sense?
Not entirely true, right? Because the blocks with the new or old, right? They go to, again, you distribute it to all the peers that are members. Only the people in the channel that are authorized to see are the only ones that can query the blocks. Nobody else, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
if you have a channel and say the channel has 3 members, right? Organization 1, 2, and 3, you define, like when you create a channel, you define these are the members of the channel and these are the rights. They are admins, readers, writers. You tell it. And only those operations are allowed for members from that, role, if you will, right? So if you say org1 is only a reader, he's not even allowed to write. If organization 2 is using its certificates to query the blocks, they can only read. They can't do anything else, right? And if you don't have anything, nobody can query, right? Other than these 3 organizations that you define. Does it help? I mean, I don't think unless I missed a point that you're trying to make.
No, that makes sense. I appreciate that. Thank you for clearing that for me.
Yep. Anything else, guys, before we move?
No, I think that covered pretty much the outstanding questions, but great job on addressing those. And let's go back to your presentation.
Okay. So the next one I want to mention is the concept of consenter, right? So consenter follower. So Fabric also introduced again, consenter was already there, right? So it's basically you're saying these are the 2 nodes, or not 2, 3 or 5, right? Generally is what we recommend for consensus. So these are the 3 nodes that are consenters on the channel. And now there is a concept of follower, right? So within the channel, you tell it, right? Organization 1 and 2 are the admins of the organizations that are contributing orders to this particular application channel, right? 1 and 2. And as long as I have the certificates, right? Certificates, I can use any of my orderers to just follow. They are not consenters, right? They are simply following, meaning they're simply pulling blocks, replicating, so they are available. One of the reasons I think, that this helps is, right? If previously, right? Let's say you have a channel with millions of blocks, right? So when you add a new node to the channel, they are like, members of the channel, right? Or they are consenter right away. And if it needs to replicate all the blocks, it takes a large amount of time, during which, there are members, there are clients that keep trying, and, it can potentially fail. Like, this is still coming up. They are not part of consenter. What the new approach does is, you simply, again, start as a follower. You simply say, like, if you look at the previous picture, like I showed on the right side, ordering service 1, 2, and 3 are like consenters. Like that's how the application channel has the definition. And you simply OSN_F is joining the channel, but they're not consenters. Again, what that does is, once the synchronization is complete, meaning, like, let's say you have 20 million blocks or whatever, right? They pulled, they are up to date. Now you can simply say, hey, this node is now a consenter. You can simply add it, and it's like instantaneous almost, right? It's, they become consenters without having to wait, and then clients are able to like just use them and all that, right? So that's the benefit of having a consenter, and follower architecture. You can read a little bit more on Fabric itself. But from the console perspective, we do allow people to be allow nodes, I should say, to be followers, and we show like which nodes are followers, which are consenters from the channel, from the console, to make it easier to manage it. That's basically the point I want to make for the console side of things. So with that said, let's go to the demo. So I have set up locally, right? So I just have my local setup, and I imported a bunch of nodes from IBP. So on the IBM Blockchain Platform, I created some nodes and I imported them. But you can create them using the open source Fabric console. not console, Fabric operator that's available. Like, again, we should have a future session on it, but however you create it, you can simply import them into the console. Again, I have 3 different CAs, right? 2 organizations for orderers. So that way we can see how the multi-node setup works. So again, just to reference, these are the things we are going to see as part of the demo, right? We will see a migration scenario from, with the system channel. How do you go into a, 2-4 system without system channel? That covers migration. And then how do you create a channel with the new approach? How do you join, remove, and how do you see the consent or follower approach, right? That's what we will see. So again, I imported 2 different, or created and imported 2 different orderers. So orderer 1, in this case, you can see is with system channel. You can see from the console what are, what type of orderer you have. One thing you do need to do right after you import, I shouldn't have done that, which is you should create a certificate of type TLS certificate. So let me actually do this. So that way, people don't get tripped up when they set this up. Let me remove the TLS cert from the wallet. That way you can see how it looks like without. So I'll start first, right? So now if you go to the nodes and then say, I go into orderer 1, you cannot see this channel listed, right? So meaning it does not have the appropriate TLS certificate. So if I go to the org1 CA and then say I want to just pick any, any ID, I don't have to pick admin, right? In this case, I'm just going to pick orderer, enroll identity, and then I type in the password. What I do need to do is to generate a certificate of type TLS certificate, and then it should generate the certificate. And then I name it orderer 1 TLS. So now I have a certificate in the wallet, right? If you see it, orderer 1 TLS certificate, and if I go to the nodes, and then drill down into orderer 1, you can see that it is able to list the system channel or any other channel on that node, right? So the bottom section, the ordering admins and all that, those are, of course, relevant only for the legacy approach. So just, I'll add org 1 just to show everything continues to work. Again, this goes back to the question of migration. So in this case, I have a 2-4 system that is operating with system channel, and it has like application channels, everything operates normally. The only thing you see in addition now is that we are listing the system channel and any other channels using the, the new API that Fabric provides, right? So what you do for migration perspective is, again, 2-step process is what Fabric recommends. So the first step is you need to get the system channel into maintenance mode so that accidentally nobody's creating channels during this migration process. If you have multiple nodes within the cluster, you don't want like accidentally people becoming, it's just confusion. So they highly recommend that you flip the channel into maintenance mode, system channel, so no new channel creation or update is happening during this phase. So within console, we added a new option that sends the system channel into maintenance mode. You just click on the gear and then you say go into maintenance, and then it shows the current state, which is, it's not in maintenance mode. You flip it to this, and then you see a message, you will not be able to create or manage new channels. And I say update, as simple as that, right? So now the channel is in maintenance mode, right? So again, no new channels. All you do is just click on this delete button, and then you paste the channel name for confirmation. In this case, system channel is this particular one, system chain ID, unjoin. Boom. That's it, right? Now you are able to manage the node without system channel. And in this particular case, I should have, if I had any channels ahead of time, like application channels, you will see them in this list. But since I didn't have it, any channels, it's a brand new system. You don't see any channels, but that's basically the migration. So put it in maintenance, delete the system channel. Any questions so far? I don't, it's fairly straightforward, that step.
Yeah, there are some questions coming through. So Mayanek, you want to ask your question directly, or would you like me to go ahead and ask it? I think it's a great question. He was asking about the migration demo being on the same version as, or would it be different? So I don't know. Varad, do you have access to the chat there? You can maybe just take a look at his question.
Okay, let me see. Migration demo is on this same version, or the version would also be different. So, if I'm understanding the question, are the nodes need to be in the same version if you have multiple ordering nodes? The answer is, as long as it's a 2.4 system, it should work. The new channel participation API can only work in 2.4 system. So if you have a cluster, the expectation is all of the nodes under the cluster need to move to 2.4. That's the first requirement. The second one is you need to enable the channel participation API. Those are two different steps that Fabric recommends. And in this particular case, where I am removing system channel, I set up a 2.4 system with system channel on IBP. So let me just quickly show that screen, just so you guys know, like within IBP, how the options show up. So this is IBP on cloud. And if I create a new ordering service, right, I can create a new one, and I get an option to say, do I want to create with or without system channel, right? So it's an option. So again, did I answer the question? You need to have the same version or at 2.4 and higher, and channel participation API enabled for the migration to work.
When you create a new app channel in 2.4, which ones have to join first, the orderer or the orderers or the peers, or it doesn't matter?
Generally, the orderers are the ones that need to join, and then the peers, because basically you're saying, hey, orderer, join these channels. I could have like 3 different nodes or whatever, all those 3 nodes individually, you're joining it. And then you're saying, peer, join this. As long as there is consensus, the peer should be able to join and operate as normal. But you need to, let's say, this is the case you need to consider, right? Let's say you have 3 nodes in the consenter, and you need to join, one at a time per se. And let's say you join the first node, you haven't joined the other 2 nodes, you don't have consensus yet, right? So there is no point in joining a peer at that point. So you would want all the nodes to join, get consensus, and then join the peer. That's ideal.
The reason I ask that, because an app channel that comes from 2.2 only has peers joined to it, right? So then in that case, you would have to join the orders after the peers would have joined already.
Right. So you could have, let's say you have a single node, right? Orderer, you join to the peer, everything is happy. And now you need to add additional orderers as consenters. Then, of course, you would do it on the order, and the peer would automatically know the channel gets replicated and know that information. Right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess my other question is, did he answer your earlier question, or is this the right time to ask that question?
Go ahead, ask the question. I mean, we have time. Yeah.
The question was about configurations. So my understanding that the configurations, for example, endorsements and things of that nature, get stored as blocks on the network, I thought they were on the system channel, but are they in the system channel, or?
They were stored in system channel. That's why it was a problem in terms of organizations within that able to see the changes coming in. So that configuration option, those are like not like, applicable anymore, because now you are working with the block that is stored like in console, or like, you store it somewhere, and then you when you join the order, you give the order and say, join this application channel. So you need to have one of the nodes up and running to make these changes, but you're changing the channel within the scope of the application channel, within the set of orderers and consenters in that. So there is no system channel in this case, right? So everything is managed within by these orderers that are consenters within the channel, those configuration changes.
Okay, so I'll get a really quick question on that. So when you go to 2.4, do you have any configuration blocks on the system channel that need to be migrated to the app channels?
No. So again, the configuration changes are, you're not going back to any configuration. You basically, the newest configuration that you have on the channel continues to live, right? So basically, there is no way to like say like, hey, I want to see what the configuration was like block 15 like 2 years ago, right? You're not doing that in this particular case, right? It's only the latest block that's persisted into that channel.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, good question though. Yeah.
Okay, we got one other question that we can address, and then you can continue on, is from Nanra, and they want to know, is there any impact to the processing speed for the network if we have a system channel or if there's no system channel?
In a normal operation kind of scenario where you are pushing blocks, I don't believe it affects the performance. It affects the performance when you start up a node and join and create channels and, those sorts of scenarios. I don't believe it affects the performance in a working live application channel scenario, but we can check with some other Fabric guys on, clarifying it. But I don't think it has an impact on the speed, because it's, again, not used for like consensus, right? That's only whoever is in the application channel is the only one that's doing consensus business.
Perfect. Okay, Varad, I think that's the good questions. So go ahead and go back to the demo, and I'll monitor, see what else comes through.
Thank you, John. So let me create a new channel, right? With the new, so in this case, I don't have any, so let's say the channel. So I'm creating a new channel, choose one of the ordering services. This is the one we just removed, the system channel. And for reference, actually, let me do that just to show you the second node I created without. So order 1 MSP is part of this guy, and then order 2 MSP. So again, you see a message that this is the order without system channel, and it tells me that TLS identity is not found. I need to create one. And it also tells me that, I need to associate a regular admin identity. So let me associate an identity, just order MSP. Now I need to go back, and the same process holds true before, right? Where I was showing I need to create a new TLS certificate from the CA that's associated with the node. Oh, sorry. Back. TLS. Next. And I say order 2 TLS. And now if I go back, it should show that, it's a no channel, of course, so it's a brand new node. So basically I have 2 nodes, right? One from each organization, 2 different organizations. And I'm going to create a channel with both of the organization 1 and 2, and then join them. So that basically mimics the scenario where you have multiple organizations. Each organization is trying to contribute different orders to the consensus process, right? So if I go to channels, create a new channel, and channel 2, and then I'm just going to say start with 1. And first it's going to say who's the organization, like just members, right? Org1, who are the peer organization members. I'll just pick one. This doesn't matter for the demo. And this is one of the important screens. That's new screen that got added. Who are the orderer admins that are on this application channel? So the MSPs that you choose are the only ones that can join the orderer. So in this particular case, you can only join orderers that belong to org1 MSP or org2 MSP, right? That's important, right? Because if you have just org1 MSP, they won't be able to join because they don't have the right certificate. So this tells you who are the organizations that are allowed to contribute orderers, and then create. So what this did at this point, nothing happened at the orderer level. All it did was to create a block with the predefined configuration. You said, like, again, we said org1, orderer 1 and orderer 2 are admins, and org1 is the member of the channel. We did that, and at this point, the console has a block. It just created one. So when you hit the continue step, this is the join flow that automatically gets initiated, right? So what the console did at this point is it looked at who the members are in the block. Again, in this case, orderer 1 MSP and orderer 2 MSP. And it also looked at the local config to say, hey, which of the orderers are from those MSPs? So in this particular case, it sees that 1 and 2, like these are the two, they are already defined as consenters. By default, I'll show you that process. By default, all nodes from that particular org are becoming consenters. So for the demo purposes, I'm just going to choose only one to join, right? So to show you something interesting. So now, if I go into the node and then go down to orderer 1, you should see that vChannel2 is a member. However, I did not choose the other node, the node 2 as a member. So obviously, at this point, I said 2 members are consenters. Generally, you want 3, of course, right? Just for the demo. So 2 are consenters, but only 1 is joined. So at this point, the channel does not have a quorum. So when I try to go into the second node, I'm going to try to join the second node into the channel. So I say, get a channel from this org, right? So this is the error message or information message I want to show, right? So basically, we are saying there is no quorum. Now you need to join using the block the console already has, right? So now if I go back to the channel with the console block, so we see that we stored the block in the console. Now what I can do is take the block, join the second node to the channel, which will establish consensus. This may be a bit confusing. Let me know if it is. I can try to explain it a little bit more. But again, the general premise is, right? I defined a channel with 2 nodes as consenters, and only one I joined. The other one hasn't joined, and hence there is no quorum. And hence I cannot get any blocks from the new node. So if I click on this, now I can say, use the block that we already stored in the console and join the second node. First node is already a consenter and it already joined with the tick mark. So I'm going to join the second node. That's it, right? So if I go back to the nodes and then drill down into the second node, I should see that, I joined and the consensus is established. So I can, like, for example, if I did this, right? Well, I can't join any other nodes. I don't have one. So I'll show the adding a follower part next, right? Because that's another important distinction I want people to see. But any questions so far in what you guys have seen in terms of joining a node, channel to the, joining a channel to the node, and then this consensus process and how we are able to use the block stored in the console to join.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat right now, Varad, but I will say what you presented is very clear and excellent.
Okay.
So, Anyone who has any questions, though, feel free to post them in the chat.
Okay. So what I'm going to do next is, right, to add a third node, right? I already pre-created one. I'm just going to import one of the nodes I already created to show the follow process, right? So I'm going to add the third node. So the third node I created as part of order 2 MSP, right? There you go. So that's part of the MSP. So if you observe, actually, let me show you that may make it interesting. So if I create a new channel, I'm not going to create a new channel. However, I would like to show, click on the advanced. So we channel. Three. So pick one. Nothing changes, so I'll just breeze through these steps. Okay. 1 and 2 are the consent nodes, MSPs that can contribute. Majority, whatever the policy, nothing changed. These are like, things we used to have. This is the screen that's interesting, right? So by default, it's going to include all of the nodes that belong to those 2 order organizations in the channel. So right now I added a third one. By default, now it will try to include all 3 nodes into the consenter. If I just unchecked it, but if I flipped it to like, no, don't include all of them, but I want to include only one guy, I can do so, right? I can say like, include these 2 guys or whatever I want. So point being, if I flipped it to include all nodes, it'll include all the nodes at that point in time that are in the console that belong to those 2 organizations into the consenter set. And you have an option to flip it and choose the specific nodes that you want to choose. So going back to the original thing, right? So when I created the channel, only 2 nodes were there, and those 2 were automatically consenters, and you saw that. And if I go to this, so I see that one is a consenter, and if I go to the second node, it'll also show as consenter, and the third one, I don't have anything. I'll associate this. Okay, so I see that again, a third node. I have the third node, no channel, right? It doesn't have any channels. So what I want to do is to join channel as a follower in this case, right? So I'm going to join channel, and I say get the block from orderer 1. So next, and then I say choose the order 3. So if you notice, right, we did not get the consensus error this time because there are 2 nodes in the consenters and both are like, in the channel. And you see that there is a star with follower, right? So this basically says I have 2 nodes. This goes back to the picture I was showing in this screen where I have 2 nodes as consenters and one is the follower, right? If we go back, not this guy, join. So you have successfully joined the new channel. Why is that? Okay, so let me see. Join channel. So first node, take this. There may have been a bug that I don't know on my local that got fixed. I pulled the maybe that is a bug. Of course, it's demo time. So, but what you should have seen is that third node become follower on this channel. Let me do this quickly and see if this flow would work. Just I'm curious. Otherwise, again, we'll get the bug fixed. Yeah, that seems to be some sort of bug. But again, that will become follower. The third node would, right? The last thing I want to show is the deleting the node from the channel, right? So if I go into the details, I can again add a node, or like, look at the information. In this case, again, the consenter, and I can also hit the delete button, right? I can say delete this channel. So what this does is, again, it only deletes the node from the order, right? So this does, as a consenter or like a follower, it simply deletes it. It does not do anything with the peer, right? The peer channel continues to remain. The Fabric has, I think they already have a feature where you can, remove a channel from the peer. Console hasn't implemented it yet. So there is a set of, I think peer CLI commands, right, that allow you to, remove a channel, peer channel, just to show you guys. So get info, peer node. Yeah, unjoined. So again, it's a CLI that's available in the newer Fabric that Console hasn't implemented, right? But it's a CLI. That's mostly what I wanted to demo. Did I miss anything? Let me just quickly check what I wanted to show. Migration, create, join, remove, consenter, follower. That one, I think there is some sort of bug that we'll look at. But any questions? Any other questions, I should say?
Yeah, Varad. Looks like there's 3 questions in the chat. And if you want to look at the chat and just answer them, that'd be great, or I can read them off to you.
Let me see. So doesn't operation to join channel require approval of existing participants? So joining a channel, you are joining. So it's a block that you created, right? Like org 1, 2, and 3, whatever, like you included. And only the guy that owns the order can join, right? There is no other approval required. Like, I'm just saying, I have a consortium of 3 members, and it's the distinction is the orderer admin is the only one that can join the channel to that order. So unless I have the right credential, random person cannot join my order, my channel into the order, right? So there is implicit approval, I should say, that's involved here, right? Let me know if that's not clear. Without system channel, how you're going to categorize which peer should be in which org, and how do you know which peer from org confirmed consensus? So the process of the peer and orderer organization did not change, right, with the new thing. So when you created a channel, when we created a channel, right, we basically said, right, let me go back to the channel creation. So when we create a new channel, it's still, let me just type something. We still have the same like organization list. In this case, I'm telling the channel, my peer can only come from org1 MSP. I cannot have a peer from like some random MSP. So that's kind of the again, nothing changed there. So it's only peers from the organization can join. Again, let me know if it's not clear. Again, consensus doesn't, it's basically you're telling like all these peers, and they are the ones that are like authorizing the transactions and storing them and all that. Again, let me know. What are the advantages of setting a follower? I think one is, again, the fact that you can be a quote unquote listener in a conversation, not like an active participant in a conversation, if you will. So in this case, right, so if all you need to do is to read the blocks, and then manage like a node with all the blocks. If that node goes down, nothing changes. You're not consenting, it's basically, let's say, I have 3 nodes, that are consenters, and 1 is not consenter. If that non-consenter follower goes down, things go on as usual. Nothing gets affected. And I think one of the benefits that Fabric specifically talks about, right, is the fact that, let me see. So this particular one, the Fabric, documentation doesn't quite talk about all the benefits of the consenter follower business. But if it's a follower, it's quicker to join. So the particular benefit is, again, right? Once you synced up, then the node is in a ready state. You can simply join. However, if you started with the consenter, then joined, then during the time it's trying to catch up all the blocks, that node is unavailable for anything, right? It's still syncing up blocks, it's not able to consent. So I think that's a benefit, again, if you synced up and then become a consenter, it's a quick join process and it's right away available for consensus. Hopefully that helped. How can we do setup of our scenario and make hands dirty? So in order to set it up, if you search for operator, Fabric operator, let me actually do that, right? So just wanted to give you this plug. So there is Fabric operator. It's fairly quick to set up and get it running. And what the operator gives you is it also kind of bundles, if you will, the console. There is a step to include the console, and you can do sample network, right? That sample network will have 2.4. So I think you can play without system channel and all that, right? It's a fairly quick and easy way to get the entire ecosystem lifecycle working, right? Where you're talking to Kubernetes, you have the console, you have the Fabric network, you can easily add nodes, remove nodes, and all that stuff, right? So I think this is one easy way to get your hands dirty. Again, I think we need to have a session for the operator and how to use it set up, but should be fairly straightforward to do it. They also support kind as an option, right? Kubernetes, cluster as an option. So this is what I use for development locally. I don't rely on much outside, but that should help. And then I'll post this operator also, just so people have the links. And then the channel creation, this link. And then the CLI stuff, if you guys are interested in.
Perfect. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yep. Okay. Anything else, right?
Looks like there's another question in the chat here from Christoph.
Let's see.
And I don't know if you can see that or if he can come off mute and just ask the question directly.
Let's see, Christoph. Okay, follow up. Let's say we have 3 organizations with each managing an order in a given channel. Now 2 new orgs want to join the consortium. Then approval from the existing participants before the 2 can join. It should not be possible for a random organization to join the channel and synchronize the blocks. Yes, right? Because if you have a 3rd organization, it depends on the channel policy. So there is, if you, let me see. That's a good question, yes. Let me go for it. So in this particular screen, when you're creating a channel, you're telling which are the organizations that are able to contribute nodes. And again, if you, in the scenario you were describing, right, there are 3 organizations to begin with and 2 wants to join. Then you need to make a channel update, right, to add those 2 new organizations into the orderer organization. And the way this approval works is, right, there is another policy, console for simplicity. If you're creating from the Fabric operator, the policy is 1 organization need to approve for any new orderer organization to join, which is not ideal, but that's a controllable policy where you can say majority need to approve, in which case you need to go through the whole approval to add the new guy. But you're right that the policy is decided by, again, that is a policy. If you decipher the block, you can see the policy. And you do need, yes, the current members to allow adding a new organization, and then you can add nodes from the new organization into the channel. Hopefully that helps.
And the process to update that policy remains the same as in 2.2, by which you have to get that JSON, do your config change, generate the protobuf, do the diff and apply and sign the protobuf and then apply. That remains the same.
Right. So again, there are two different things I want to make sure people got it right. One is the channel member policy, right? Who are the members and how does the peers join and work with it? That's one. And the second one is the order specific list, right? Organizations that are part of the to do any modifications to the order level, you need to have these approvals. But both of which require approval from the organizations. And we definitely have channel level orchestration between multiple consoles to do the organization level policy. But I think we are close to being done with the order level policy update, right? So that's not something you can do at the moment from the console. Again, we set the default to whatever, single node, single org need to approve. But if you need to extend it to other cases, console does not support it yet. But yes, it would require doing the whole a dance, right? Download, add, get protobuf, get it signed, get it, submitted. Yes.
And for the peers, that's what you do on the background of the Fabric console, right?
Exactly. That makes it easier for the peer because that's a more common scenario we had, and you can do the whole dance from the console, all the back and forths, but not for the order admins yet. Okay, I think that's perfect timing. Any other questions, please, send it my way, or open up an issue like we were talking about. That's, I think, all I wanted to cover.
Yeah, that was a great presentation, Varad. Looks like there's some other people that have a question to follow up with you. If you want, would you post your email in the chat where they could touch base with you? I think Sunny wants to reach out about a podcast.
Let me post my LinkedIn just so people have access to it. I should have included probably in the, let me post that.
And I think we're at the top of the hour, Varad, but let's just tackle one more question and then we'll call it good for today. And I agree with you. I would like to have a follow-on presentation by you because I think that there's a lot to cover here. And let's just get on email and cover that. But it looks like there's a question about being able to set up the environment on Ubuntu 18 and an Azure virtual machine.
So as long as you can run Kubernetes, you can run it anywhere. Basically, that's the general answer, right? So, you can use Kind or Kubernetes, the open source, the operator that runs wherever Kubernetes runs. And, I use for my local setup Rancher and Kind within it, right? So I think you should be able to run it. There is no reason why it wouldn't work because, again, it's all Kubernetes.
Okay, I think that covers everything. I really appreciate everyone joining the call today. And please feel free to follow up with Varad. And please feel free to interact with the GitHub community there as well. And we'll look forward to the next presentation by Varad. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.